Greetings one and all, and welcome to my first attempt at making a video. Welcome also to this, my mess, also known as my Commodore 64 haul. And so these are the items I bought recently to explore the old Commodore. Now when I was younger I had a +4. I never had a 64, and so I thought I would give it a go. And with particular interest in music. So if we bring that up, an example of the sort of things I've been looking for, as well as some introductions to BASIC. So that is my collection, a great mess on the table. Let me take you through it and show you what I've found. So question is, where shall we start? We're going to clear the decks. Let's begin with something I found locally. A Commodore MIDI controller keyboard. I don't know if it's a controller, but it's a MIDI keyboard. A single MIDI out and a power button. No power supply sadly, but with batteries it does work and will plug in. No cables at all, and so I've bought a MIDI cable, if I can find it. There, a little short 1 meter MIDI cable. A great find, £30 or thereabouts, and the guy even came and delivered it for free. So let's sit that up on the windowsill. That's the first bit of space cleared. Second, let's go this way. Move those. One thing I wanted to do was explore some BASIC, and so I found this, Gore-Tex and the Microchips. Wonderful little game. Very simple, very cartoon-like. A little introduction to BASIC through storytelling. It's a rather exciting little thing. If I was 7 years old, I think I'd wet my pants with this. Really terrific. As we keep flicking through, you get these wonderful characters. Look at these. I think they are the Zitrons. Trying to attack the planet. So the Zitrons are trying to attack the planet of Syntax, and you must help Gore-Tex defend himself. So in the box, 2 simple cassettes and a pin badge. Nice to find that still there. Of course I can't get it out of the box. Come on. No, it won't come out of the box. Everything out of the box. There we are, a simple pin badge. The days when you used to stab yourself with a pin badge on a regular basis. Put that away. Next, of course, Introduction to BASIC, the comprehensive Teach Yourself Programming series. And of course, Part 2, which you don't often see, so it's nice to have the both. Now if I can find a way to open this with one hand, I can't. Try two. There we go. And the reveal. Another book. A spiral bound book beneath the cover. And plenty to work with. As far as I understand, these Introduction to BASIC books were written originally for the Commodore VIC-20, and I'm not sure they changed a great deal for the Commodore C64 and for the Commodore Plus/4 or Commodore 16. I think they're largely the same. So it's possible they don't get the best out of the computers, but they do provide a way into programming. And I've already sat down and worked halfway through part 1, part 2 to go. And Gore-Tex is good fun. I've done that already. So let's set those to one side and clear some more space on my table. And before we get to this, the music packages, which we'll set to one side as well. I was lucky enough on Facebook to find a boxed Commodore 64. I won't unbox it because there's nothing in the box. I've taken it out already. Nothing. The computer, of course, is here. I'm very thankful. Let's take the music sheet off, music gadget off. But this was an untested machine. It cost me the grand total of £50 and it works. No problems at all. It is, however, you can see by the keys, you really can't because the light is shining yellow. The colours on those number keys are written in a nice clear white, but on top, the lettering on top of the keys is quite strongly yellow. And all in all, it's quite a yellowed machine with a grey power connector. The power supply is good. However, it was claimed to be unopened, just as it was originally. That doesn't look to be the case. Looking inside, I've already opened it up and had a good look in there. I'm pretty certain that inside there it's had quite a fair bit of work replacing RAM chips and other things. However, I've gone off to Rediscovering and ordered some little heat sinks for the larger chips, and in a kit of parts that I've already got, I've got a number of capacitors, not the larger ones but most of the little ones. There's a little job I will have to do to make it a little more reliable, as it has a couple of faults. It also came with the user manual, also spiral bound. (1984). So not the first of the machines, but it is a breadbin, and that's rather nice. But my understanding is you get the first generation of the SID chip, which is what makes these computers so special. Along with the computer, at a car boot sale for the grand total of £20, I did manage to get hold of a 1551 disk drive, which of course, I've never had one of these before. I knew they were large, but it's just about the same size as the computer itself. Quite a beast. And sadly, it's not working. And I've been inside and I've socketed all of the chips so that I could swap them in and out easily, but I haven't yet found the chip that's not working. A little frustrating. Thankfully, the disk drive did come with its power cable and a serial cable, so that saves a little bit of expense. Hopefully that will be working soon. So back on the table, and to show, one of the things I wanted to do with the Commodore 64 was play some music. And so I've got hold of a serial video socket. Won't focus, there we go. Connecting to the auxiliary output. and should I need it, I happen to have a RCA to VGA adapter. Not necessary. You can break out with these cables and draw the sound into a hi-fi or amplifier, which is a rather fantastic thing to do. To get the music, I've been out and I've bought these things. The Commodore Music Maker. Both boxed. I've got the software for the Music Maker, the Music Keyboard, and Music Maker 2, which we can see here. That's the original software. This is version 2 of the same software. Rather nice to have both. There's a reason for doing that, and that is, of course, I didn't want to spend, remove the cellophane, didn't want to spend too much money on these things. The keys were in relatively good condition. These are the white keys. They were all attached when I got them, but of course the black keys, which I put in a cassette box here, were all broken, or at least half of them were broken. And so out of 2 music makers, I've made up one that is complete and which I can use on my keyboard. The second box here, empty, because the machine is up here. And if I flip it, you can see the keys are a little bit loose because the hot glue hasn't set very well, but it all holds into place just fine. We can see those black keys are just hinged, just there, and it's a very thin plastic hinge, and so I've had to cut here and cut here to salvage enough good keys to make one good keyboard. And the advantage of doing that is that I get the 2 versions of the software and the 2 versions of the music that comes with it. The first one, When I'm 64. Words and music by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. You have to wonder if they had copyright for that. And a small erratum, if anyone else has got one of these but hasn't seen that. It doesn't make much difference. You can work out what's wrong with the text anyway. Oops, sun's shining, so the contrast is up on my camera. This one, similar information, how to use the program, a little bit about how the sounds are formed. But different music. What we get as an example is Telstar, The Entertainer by Scott Joplin, which is rather good. The Night Music Serenade by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Bit of classical there. And sadly, only one of the boxes had the SFX booklet, the SFX tutor, with more examples of music to play and a little introduction to the theory of music. Simple tunes, but nice to have. And when we look at the leaflet, now SFX, as I understand, was Commodore in the UK produced these bits of software in the Music Maker. And with this booklet they also did a whole variety of other booklets to find. Now I've seen the Beatles hits available online, but at a rather crazy price, so I think we'll leave that there. All these other titles that could be got. Then we take this, even with its loose keys, it works just fine. Latch it into the top groove, lock it into place. It lines up with the function keys, and away you play. And it works rather well. Sadly, there's a couple other bits of software to get for the Commodore which come on cartridge. They don't match up, they don't map the keys to the music maker. So this array of keys along here is more like up here, not mapped the same way, which is a little bit frustrating, because the advantage of this with a cartridge is that if you put that into the machine and switch it on, the program is there straight away. There's no loading time from cassettes, which will make it very convenient. The one I've managed to get hold of is Music Composer. There is another one called Music Machine, which I haven't tried yet, but hopefully I'll get hold of a copy. Little instructions on how to use that. And that really is about programming some sounds into the computer, much more than playing. So perhaps if I could get Music Machine, I could get a little more of a result from that. Further, with the Commodore keyboard and its MIDI out connection, the hope was to plug in a Messiah cartridge into the back port and plug the MIDI cable straight through into the machine and be able to work with that. However, I read some reviews, and the cartridge I've decided to go for is this one, the Cynthcart. And I've been able to plug it in, and I have to say it sounds fantastic. Quite amazing sound straight out of the box. And what it says is when you plug it in, you have created an analog synthesizer. The challenge then is to make it into a digital synthesizer by attaching some MIDI ports to the computer. And for that, 2 further adapters are needed. Of course, I don't have those yet. That'll come. Moving over to what's left. The disk drive came with its book. I also got it with Scrabble. I don't know if anybody ever plays Scrabble, but this same game seems to be available for every computer. This one being a disc version. I've seen it on cassette, I've seen it for Sinclair, I've seen it for PC compatibles and various other machines. And the one game I have for the computer at the moment, Total Eclipse, a special edition with versions 1 and 2, and the disc-based version. The instructions, there should be a poster, that's missing, but a cassette-based version as well, which is an advantage because my disc drive is not working. But I do have one of these. Of course, this version of the data set 1531 is one I owned already, as a child I did have a Commodore Plus 4, and of course this one says only for the Plus 4. I've still got the booklets for that. The reason it's for the Plus 4 is to plug it into a 64 or a VIC-20 you need to create an edge connector. and so this adapts the serial socket at the end of the cable, and at that point it's just fine. Works just as well. No issues, and nice and reliable. And with that I can get my one game working. I bought a joystick. I don't know if Commodore did a joystick for the C64. I also found online this joystick for the VIC-20, which I believe is called the 1351. So there's no numbers printed on it, and it's the off-white colour of the VIC-20. I went for this as a larger joystick with this interesting adapter on there. Not convinced that works, not sure what it does. Possibly saves having to plug and unplug the joystick from one port to the other. An interesting thing. Works on most computers. It will work on the C16 and the +4 with an adapter. There is, in the contrasty light, that curious double connection. Sun is shining through my window. One of the features of the synth cartridge is that you can use potentiometers, or alternatively the Commodore paddle, which I believe was also for the VIC-20, the same sort of age as that machine, that joystick. So with this plugged into the back, the synthesizer will fire up straight away. Then with two paddles, you get two adjustments within the synth cartridge without doing any modifications to the software. It's all available. What I wasn't aware of, if you trace these cables all the way back to the computer, both of them plug into Joyport 2. I don't know why that is. I thought there would be one each, but they come as a pair. There it is, my collection of bits. One thing to add is the Cynthcart inside the box comes with these very small instructions. And although it doesn't look like it there, the typeface is so tiny it's almost impossible to read. However, you can download a PDF and print it out on a full A4 sheet of paper. Solves that problem. Once I laminate those, I'll have some cards to use with my synthesizer. A further package I bought, I found online, excuse the cellophane, The Music System. Rather interesting piece of software. It was supposed to have been better than many of the others in its day, and it's one I'd like to explore further. But from the same manufacturer, there's a number of others. The Image System, rather interesting concept. It's a bit like a very primitive Photoshop, and provides a mouse and a graphical user interface straight from the software. I didn't expect that. The Typing Tutor. This is Pitman training for keyboard skills. So you can sit there and learn how to get so many words a minute. What I haven't looked at yet, Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, which I think is about making robots. A little bit like a Star Wars adventure game on the PC. And the last one is quite amusing. It's simply an audio tape. You can see there, it really is an audio tape. And it's a voice telling you, welcome to your Commodore, and all the sounds it makes. It's quite an amazing thing to listen to. I'll try and harvest the sounds of that. And so there it is. Ripe for exploration. A great mess, a great collection of bits. One last point of note. Something that's just purely for fun and almost useless. As I try the Cynthcart in the back of the machine, one of its advantages is it's simply plug and play, and you play away using that as a musical instrument. You don't need a monitor or a television. It's completely unnecessary, it's just a keyboard. However, there is a display and a visualizer, and something people try and do is attach a small LCD monitor, perhaps the size of this game box or a little bit smaller. They try and mount that up there as a little screen to have along with their synthesizer. I don't have one of those, I can't afford one, but what I do have is this, a JVC colour video monitor, presumably for a closed circuit television system. So if I go around the back, you can see that what it has is a number, that's rather dark, of BNC connectors and a curious serial audio cable. What's so curious about this thing is that little 5-inch CRT monitor is full colour and about the same size as the portable Commodore 64, and probably about the same resolution. It's very difficult to see what's going on there, but it works, and it can make a little portable monitor while I use the Cynthcart. The last thing on my table is rather faded yellow, slightly disgusting looking because of the colour, but it's a lovely little thing. A sharp black and white television. Of course, colour would be nicer, but back in the day a lot of people couldn't afford a colour television, and so this is the one I've got. I've had it for a long time, and so that's what it'll be plugged into. And there we go. Wish me luck as I explore this new system.